this week's episode.
Canadian history!
Yay! Due to the recent news of March 6, 2017, of Canada preparing for the future of human spaceflight to deep space, shall we go over our prime moments in space? During World War I, June 6, 1916, the Government of Canada decides to coordinate national scientific research with the creation of the Honorary Advisory Council on Scientific and Industrial Research, which after June 19, 1925, as the National Research Council of Canada, the NRCC. Then, in the Second International Polar Year, Canada participated by establishing measurement field stations of meteorological, magnetic, and auroral phenomena beyond the Arctic Circle. Radio techniques are used for the first time in Canada to demonstrate the correlation between solar radiation and the ionosphere. Moving on to the International Geophysical Year, from July 1957 to December 1958, was a period of maximum solar activity, and the science community worldwide conducted research to better understand Earth's physics and the interactions between the Sun and our planet. During this period, Canada and the U.S. built the Churchill Research Range in North Manitoba for launching suborbital sounding rockets that will probe the upper atmosphere until it is decommissioned in 1989. More than 3,500 suborbital flights are launched there. On October 4th, 1957, opening of the space age with the successful launch of the Soviet Sputnik 1 satellite, the first man-made object to ever orbit the Earth. Within hours of its launch, John Chapman and fellow scientists at Defense Research Telecommunications Establishment located in Canada are the first to record Sputnik's first beeps. In November of the same year, the launch of a Nike Kajun sounding rocket from the Churchill Range with the first Canadian science payload. In April 12, 1961, after completing one orbit around the Earth during a 108-minute flight on his Vostok 1 spacecraft, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, a 27-year-old pilot, makes history as the first human being in space. Americans fight for second. On May 5th, 1961, astronaut Alan B. Shepard becomes the first American in space after a 15-minute suborbital flight aboard his Freedom 7 capsule. The communication antenna of this spacecraft was Canadian and is known as STEM, Storable Tubular Extendable Mechanism, built by de Havilland Aircraft of Downsview, Ontario. September 29, 1962, with the Alouette launch, Canada became the third nation after the Russian and American superpowers to design and build its own satellite, Alouette 1. Alouette 1 was launched on a Thor Agenda B rocket at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California on an 80-degree inclination orbit, at an altitude of 1,000 kilometers. Official local date of the launch is September 29, 10:30 p.m. Designed with a one-year lifetime, the topside sounder will transmit useful data for over 10 years. It studies the ionosphere, the electrical charge layer of the upper atmosphere that can affect long-distance radio transmissions. Alouette 2 is launched on November 29, 1965. April 6th of 1965 was the launch of the Early Bird, or the Intelsat 1. The first commercial communication satellite used by the Canadian Overseas Telecommunication Corporation for transatlantic communications. In 1975, it would become Teleglobe Canada. In 1969, the launch of ISIS-1, more sophisticated than the Alouette spacecraft, ISIS is designed to make comprehensive study of the upper section of the ionosphere and to capture the first picture of the Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights, from space. Launch of ISIS-2 on March 31st, 1971. On March 31st, 1971 was the launch of ISIS-2, scientific satellite on a Thor Delta rocket to continue ionospheric studies performed by the two Alouette spacecrafts and ISIS-1. On September 29, 1972, the federal government creates the David Florida Laboratory, an integration and environmental testing facility that will support the Hermes CTS program. The laboratory is named in honor of C. David Florida, manager of the ISIS program until 1971. It still stands today. November 9, 1972, the Anik A1 communication satellite is launched. Canada is the first country with a domestic communication satellite in the geostationary orbit. April 20th of 1973, launch of the Anik A2, Canada's second communication satellite. In 1974, NASA awarded Canada the responsibility of designing, developing, and building the Shuttle Remote Manipulator System for the Space Shuttle. The result is Canadarm, the 15-meter robotic arm. Canada also invests $100 million for its development, contributing the first unit to the Space Shuttle program. 4 other Canadarms are ordered from industrial main contractor Spar Aerospace Limited of Brampton, Ontario. In 1981, the first flight of Canadarm in the Space Shuttle. Then, in 2001, the delivery of the Canadarm2 to the International Space Station. In 2008, installation of Dexter, the space station robotic handyman. We have accomplished so much as a nation, together with other countries, and have made our mark, not only on Earth, but beyond, in the stars, in the sky, in the galaxy, and hopefully will continue to do so, in space, forever.